It is the 25th of June 2020, and always a pleasure to have you every evening. My name is Nelson Mushoki, and welcome to our news desk. This is DBN Live broadcasting from Nairobi, where our communication center is based. Welcome to the program of our news desk. On our news desk today is that 6 months after the former agricultural CS Mwangi Kiunjuri was ousted from the ministerial docket, he has made a comeback to the political ring. He has launched a new political outfit, the Service Party TSP, and he says he has plans in place of political seats ahead of the 2022 general elections. Citizen TV with the details.
Political drumbeats have begun to warm the stage ahead of the 2022 general election. Former Agriculture Minister Mwangi Kiunjuri making a comeback to the political boxing ring, launching the Service Party of Kenya that he says will check against what he terms as the signs of a return to single-party rule in the country.
We proudly present to Kenyans the Service Party of Kenya. And as we do this, we continue to remind ourselves that our party is about service, huduma. We believe in God and the principles of our party.
Kiunjuri, who has been in the political cold for the last 6 months after he was asked from the cabinet, says his new political party will play a critical role in the 2022 election.
Our symbol, as you can see, is a heart inside a circle, nested in the background of our party colors. This symbol is our promise. It is our heartfelt promise. It stands for a genuine desire to serve humanity and to serve fellow Kenyans.
The women, Mama Wamboga, jiunge na chama cha TSP. Jiamini unaweza pata the right leader. Because with this party, we are promising you, we will take you to a place where we will not be shying away from correcting. If we are in government, the government, if we are outside the government as opposition, we will not shy away from fighting for the people of Kenya.
The launch of the TSP comes amid widening cracks within the Jubilee Party, with President Uhuru Kenyatta sending packing all DP Ruto's allies in Parliament, replacing them with loyal MPs who have been repulsing DP Ruto's inroads in the central Kenya region.
TSP? Huduma. Huduma? Twajiamini. Twajiamini? Jiamini. Jiamini Mkenya.
The TSP party is likely to become a key player, especially in the Mount Kenya region, where Kiunjuri has been a political figure for more than 2 decades. In 2013, Kiunjuri led the Grand National Union Party GNU that clinched several parliamentary and ward seats and a gubernatorial seat in Nyeri. Kiunjuri and his TSP party fashioning himself as one of several options for a running mate to Deputy President William Ruto in 2022, and the party a formidable alternative train to dock him in State House.
TSP is there. We shall have discussions. One thing I want to assure you is that I'm not going to run as a governor for Laikipia. I will not.
TSP donned in yellow colors, a reflection of William Ruto's URP party that was collapsed to form the Jubilee Party in the run-up to the 2017 elections. TSP has an uphill task to woo at least 2.9 million voters in the larger Mount Kenya region that were eligible to vote in the last general election. As at 2017 elections, Kiambu County had a majority 1.8 million voters. Meru had 702,480 voters. Murang'a 587,126 voters. Nyeri 456,949 voters, while Nyandarua had 335,634 voters and Kirinyaga had 349,836 voters, with the numbers expected to increase following the 2019 census. As of now, TSP is keen on upcoming by-elections to popularize the new party ahead of the general poll.
TSP, we are ready. we want to field candidates in those areas and regions. And I can give you an example. In Kiambu, TSP, once IEBC announces when we are going to have a by-election, we are going to have a by-election at Kahawa Wendani.
Jiamini Mkenya.
The Service Party of Kenya is now daring other political parties to the ring, with its party leader Mwangi Kiunjuri vowing to bring his political experience ahead of the 2022 general election. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Even as the country awaits the fate of Kirinyaga County Governor Anne Waiguru on Friday, Ngilu is on the chopping block as Kitui MCAs now plans an impeachment motion against Ngilu. She is accused of undermining the authority of the county assembly, bypassing the legislature in key appointments, also for failing to account for several expenditures. Citizen TV with the details.
Ngilu's tribulations would appear to have been a long way coming, as the allegations in her impeachment motion date back to her first year in office. She is accused of gross violation of the Constitution, for instance, for failing to attend a Senate sitting of the county's Public Accounts and Investments Committee in 2019 that caused her to be fined 500,000 shillings. Ngilu is accused of failing to satisfactorily respond to audit queries when she eventually honored summons. She is accused of failing to honor two-thirds gender rule in her cabinet appointments, that out of 7 CECs, she has only 1 woman. The MCAs claim that the county's lack of a health minister is tantamount to denying the county residents a right to health. They claim that Ngilu's government procured 2 imaging machines more than a year ago at a cost of 150 million shillings, but have remained unutilized since. Still on her cabinet, Ngilu is accused of failing to dismiss trade CEC Philip Momo despite a resolution of the Assembly removing him for lack of academic qualifications that the Assembly found to have been forged. The MCAs further allege that Ngilu hired Dr. Joshua Chepchieng as the county secretary without due procedure, having failed to submit the candidate's name to the Assembly for approval. That Kitui government has been deducting taxes on personnel emoluments and other taxes but failed to submit up to 498 million shillings to the Kenya Revenue Authority. As such, the county budget for the coming financial year has factored in 498 million shillings for the same. The MCA is left to wonder what happened to the deductions. Ngilu is further accused of failing to tame the county's wage bill at the maximum of 35%, while failing to appoint a county public service board that would be responsible for hiring of critical staff. The MCA is finding the governor of undermining the authority in her lifting of a ban that had been instituted by the Assembly barring transportation of sand outside Kitui. In what the MCAs find absurd, Ngilu's government is accused of paying up to 5.2 million shillings to comedy company Laugh Industry for services not stated, while the police were paid over 3 million shillings as fuel and allowances. The MCAs claim that the Kitui police boss has denied such payment, as MCAs question why police officers would be paid by a county, yet they are adequately facilitated to execute their duties by the national government. The motion is expected to formally be tabled on Monday and debated on Tuesday. Governor Ngilu has remained quiet about the developments. Sam Gituko, Citizen TV.
From Kitui County, we head to the National Assembly. Is that the executive arm of the government is seeking the National Assembly's approval to spend an additional 14.37 billion shillings in the financial year 2019-2020, which is set to end in just 6 days. NTV with the details.
The executive has returned to the floor of the August House, seeking the green light to bump up the planned expenditure for the financial year ending June 30th, 2020, which is just next week, by 14.37 billion shillings. This expenditure encompasses an 8.86 billion shillings increase in recurrent expenditure and 5.51 billion shillings increase in development expenditure. Accounting for the lion's share of the increase is the Ministry of Health, whose expenditure estimates have been revised upward by 6.7 billion shillings, gobbling up 46.62% of the total increase. Coming next after the Health Ministry is the State Department of Housing and Urban Development, whose increase is 2.38 billion shillings, and the Defence Ministry with an increase of 1.9 billion shillings. The 6.7 billion shillings increase in the budget of the Ministry of Health is attributable to the upward revision for the budget allocation to the Health Policy Planning and Financing Programme from the initial 30.66 billion shillings to 37.36 billion shillings. The allocation for the delivery of affordable and social housing units under the State Department for Housing is also set for a major boost in its purse, with the allocation being revised upward by 2.33 billion shillings to stand at 4.56 billion shillings. On the other extreme end, however, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has taken a hit with its budget revised downward by 90 million shillings to stand at 3.28 billion shillings.
Section 43, subsection...
Focus now shifts to the National Assembly, which has only one sitting left to pass the proposed supplementary estimates before the current financial year draws to a close next week on Tuesday. The third supplementary budget for the financial year 2019-2020 brings to the fore the challenges the government is facing in adhering to its fiscal consolidation agenda, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Julian's Amboko, NTV.
We shift our gears from the National Assembly to a fire incident. There was a situation in Gikomba Market today in the morning as the market caught fire. Firefighters tried to put out fire. This has been happening for a while at Gikomba Market. KTN with the details.
Gakonya, if you can hear me, kindly paint for us a picture of what is happening at the Gikomba Market.
Burning, but the fire engines have not been able to access where the fire is because, as you know, Gikomba is closely, the houses are close, the closed stores are close to one another.
And Fred, which part of Gikomba Market has been affected by the fire? As we try to still get a hold of my colleague Fred Gakonye, just to remind you about that fire, the Gikomba Inferno that has engulfed a section of that market, and specifically the section that has clothing and food stuff. And we understand that the Nairobi County Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko is currently making his way to Gikomba Market just to try and ascertain the cause of the fire, which we are yet to get more details. But as I told you earlier on, our reporter Fred Gakonye is on the ground. Will be giving us more details later on as we try to get a hold of him. But what you're seeing right now are views on your screen, are pictures that were taken earlier on. Actually the live pictures right now showing you that the fire is still on. The fire brigade, the Nairobi County Fire Brigade, is already at the market trying to put off the fire. And so that is the latest update that we are getting right now concerning Gikomba Market. This is the second time that the market is, up in flames, and it is a developing story. And this is not the first time the market is being reported in terms of inferno. And recently, there was a time that a committee had been set up to try and get to know the real causes of fires that have been reported at Gikomba Market. But it is such a sad day for traders within Gikomba Market, waking up to destruction of their property, a place where they call their job places, their marketplaces, where they earn a living. And a section of the place that is on fire, let me just repeat that again, is a section that mostly deals with cereals, and also part of it is where traders sell clothing. And so a developing story right there. Our reporter Fred Gakonye will be giving us more details, but for now I'd like us to listen into the live pictures.
On a sad note is that tales of children abused by relatives in Western, especially in Busia County, have continued to puzzle many fathers who have been infected with HIV and AIDS, are now defiling their daughters under the misconception of getting cured from the disease. More from KTN.
This is Malaba, an old town that sprouted during the construction of the Kenya-Uganda Railway in the early 1900s. It is one of the two border towns in Busia County. This is where most of the cargo entrances to and from Mombasa port to neighboring countries such as Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, DR Congo and South Sudan are handled. The town rakes in huge sums of money from clearance of transit goods. The origin of the name Malaba, home to the Teso, remains a mystery. There has been speculation that a renowned witch doctor by the same name once lived in the area. As mysterious as the name Malaba is, so it is the root of the numerous cases of incest and defilement that happen in Busia County.
We have 13,638 cases, until today, because we get a case almost every day. There is still a lot of correlation between incest, defilement, and HIV. We are seeing a lot of fathers who are HIV positive sleeping with their children. A lot of brothers who are HIV positive sleeping with their sisters whom they assume are virgins. And actually, so many of our little girls have contracted HIV that way. In Busia, we have really normalized defilement. We have normalized rape. We have normalized violence against women. It is normal.
None of the names used for the victims in this story are real names. Nekesa, not her real name, narrates the horrific experience she went through in 2010. Her mother stands beside her. It all happened one evening after getting back from school when one man meant to be her most trusted protector turned prey. A dark evening when Nekesa's father defiled his own daughter.
Hiyo wakati nilikuwa na miaka 12 na nilikuwa class 4. Aliniita nikaenda akanitoa panty. Kunitoa panty akaanza akaniambia usiambie mamako, ukiambia mamako nitakuua.
Her mother tried to seek help from the police, but her cries also fell on deaf ears.
Chief ni jirani yangu. Aliniambia hiyo kitu uachilia tu. Usiinue hiyo sauti. Hiyo ni kitu tutaongea kama boma. Nikamwambia, kwa hii kurepu mtoto ambaye umezaa tunaongea kama boma.
Nekesa would later be taken to the hospital only to find out that her father had infected her with HIV. It was too late to be put under post-exposure prophylaxis, which is a medication given to victims of rape after being potentially exposed to HIV in order to prevent infection. PEP must be started within 72 hours after possible exposure to HIV.
Mafikiri yangu ilikuwa tu niende nijinyonge juu nimepata aibu mingi sana juu ya mzazi kuniharibu. Bado sijafika wakati wangu wa kulala na kijana.
Rather than getting help and compassion from her family, Nekesa was seen as an outcast and threatened to be killed, forcing her mother to flee from their home with her, ending an 11-year marriage and being forced to live in secrecy.
Baba mkwe anasimama anasema paka lazima nikuue na huyo mtoto wako. Umekuja kuzaa hapa watoto wasichana peke yake kuharibu boma langu. Tukanyang'anywa vitu. Tukafukuzwa.
The threat on the lives of the mother and daughter was so palpable that they only narrowly escaped death one fateful night.
Nikasikia simu yangu inalia usiku. Ananiambia uko wapi mwalikwa? Nikasema mimi niko tu kwa nyumba. Kimbia, kuna watu wanakuja kukuua. Kweli nikichomoka kusimama kwa mlango hivi naona pikipiki 3 zinachomoza.
Years later, Nekesa is not only left with the burden of managing HIV, but also the pain of what seems to be justice denied. Her father, who had fled to Uganda to hide, is now back in Busia, just thumping and walking scot-free.
Wakati nimefika huko, ati jamaa amepatikana Adongos police station. Nikaona askari mwingine ananiambia mama, ati hakuna kesi. Nikasema, Mungu.
Due to financial constraints, Nekesa dropped out of school and is now surviving on odd jobs, living from hand to mouth and in fear. It is almost a case of same script, different cast for Gertrude. When she was 14 years old, Gertrude was defiled by her father. It all happened one dreadful night when her mother had attended a night burial ceremony.
Babangu bila alipoenda matanga karudi akanirep usiku.
Gertrude had to flee from her father's threats only to find out later that she was pregnant.
Vile watu walikuwa wanaanza kugundua akanichukua akanipeleka Nairobi kwenda kuishi na babangu mdogo. Fanyia upasuaji Nairobi kwa hospitali Mpomwani. Narudi na mtoto, babangu akachukua mtoto, sijui penye alipeleka.
Her father was arrested and then freed shortly through dubious means.
Mama kamba akaenda kamtoa kama tujui.
The story of Jacinta is one that should never have to be told. At the tender age of 3 years, Jacinta was left under the care of her grandmother and uncle after her mother got married to another man who did not accept her. At this very tender age, Jacinta was defiled by her uncle. A few months later, she became sickly and was later found to be HIV positive.
Nikaanza kumeza dawa. Nikona mwili yangu sasa imeanza kurudi vyema.
Many years later, Jacinta's constant struggle has been fighting discrimination and stigma from her peers in school. Darkness, depression and sleepless nights are what her life is now all about.
Kwa mawazo yangu tu kila wakati ilikuwa lazima tu nijiue. Wanafunzi wananiongolea vibaya juu ya madawa zangu, wanasema hizo madawa zako ni kubwa kubwa. Wanameza kila siku. Wengine wananiambia uko mimba, wengine kuna HIV tukitembea na utatuambukiza.
She says sometimes it gets so difficult because her family cannot afford food to provide her energy that she needs.
Kama sijakula na nimeze dawa, mamangu anapata nimezirai chini.
The pain of children sexually assaulted by their own caregivers is inconceivable, yet sadly too common this part of Western Kenya. Her father took her to his Chang'aa den and defiled her.
Kutembea tu distance kidogo, akanigeukia akanianguka kwa shingo, akaninyonga, akanivuruta, akanipeleka kwa kichaka ingine. Hapo nikapiga nduru, akanishika, akanifunika mdomo.
He later dumped her at their gate. He was arrested and taken to Luanya police station, but no charges were raised against him. He is a free man.
Kwenda Bumala, nikaandika statement, lakini venye alishikwa wakupeleka kesi yangu, walikuja wakamtoa na akakimbia, alienda Uganda.
Just like the other defilement and rape suspects in the region, his exit plan was simple and common: to find refuge in Uganda. This is one of the easiest shortcuts to get to Uganda from Kenya. This is the best route that incest and defilement offenders use to run to Uganda to find refuge. Julia's story is full of anguish. She bears scars and pain from being raped several times by different people. Last year on 17th of June 2019, Juliet was defiled by her grandfather.
Akanishika nguvu na akanisukuma kwa kitanda. Na akatoka tu hapo kwa kitanda venye alikuwa uchi. Na nikasikia sauti ya mama akimwambia chenye umenifanyia ni uchungu na tutamalizia mbele. Na akafungua mlango na akaniambia wewe usiogope, nitaongea naye.
The suspect was arrested, but Juliet never knew what was on the way. 1 month later, the suspect planned a payback to her for putting him behind bars. On that fateful morning, on her way to school, she was ambushed by 3 guys who were allegedly sent by his grandfather. The 3 raped her repeatedly.
Sijui venye alinifanya. Ndio kesho yake nikajikuta karibu na mtoni. Sina nguo zenye nilikuwa na uniform, t-shirt walichukua, wakachukua na panty.
These are just a few of the countless of similar cases here. Most of such cases are handled by REAP, Rural Education and Economic Enhancement Program, a local NGO operating from Butula town in Busia County. Question is, why do these cases never see the light of justice? What is behind the attempts to block defilement victims, including those attacked by their own fathers, never to seek legal redress? Is the legal process costly? Are the police, the judiciary, or the community to blame?
Instead of the community condemning the act, they actually side with the perpetrator, and most of the time the victim, the survivor, is forced to compromise. Now people are telling the survivors, the families of the survivors, like, you know, you better just take something because this case will not go with it anywhere.
According to many of the victims and survivors of defilement, what often happens is when a victim, usually through her mother, seeks help from the area chief or police for action to be taken against perpetrators, both local leaders and the police contact the suspect and plan on how to kill the story through exchange of money.
We've had others who have been paid a bag of maize. We have had some people who have been paid goats. We even had one who was paid 2,000. Yeah.
When police fail to move the wheels of justice, the next step is the judiciary. It is alleged that those involved in the handling of the cases, especially the court clerks, receive cash to either alter the evidence or even make the files disappear. These are some of the cases that will have never seen the light of justice after some rogue judiciary officials played their game so well.
We have cases that have taken as long as 7 years in court. You know, you get tired. We have had a case where we were waiting in one court while the perpetrator was being released in another court because the victim never comes to court, but they used to be given different even courts.
In most of the cases, victims are forced to write a new statement months later after the start of the court cases. They are told that their files cannot be traced so as to be forced to alter their statements.
When they bribe magistrates, when they bribe the judiciary staff, you know, they come back to the village and brag. You know, they'll come and tell you, one cow is enough for you. We shall see where you will go.
On January 8, 2018, a 4-year-old girl from this family went through the most horrendous experience of her life. She left to play with her friends in their neighbor's compound in Malaba town, but never returned. She was found next day left unconscious next to a nearby shop. Malaba police officers arrested one man after he was positively identified by the girl. During the case hearing, witnesses availed themselves and DNA test linked the suspect to the crime.
Mtu mwingine akatupigia simu, mnajua huyo mtu anatoka tarehe 16. Tukashindwa, na sisi walituambia tusiende kuattend court. Tuache tu sasa serikali ifanye kazi yake.
A few months later, the family was given a shocking information in court. Their daughter's case file could not be found. After all the attempts to find the file failed, the family requested help from media. KTN News visited Busia law courts. A day-long search for the file began and the file was recovered.
Ilikuwa mchezo ya maaskari Malaba Police Station mwenye alisimamia na karani wa koti wa Busia law court. Ndio tulikuja tukapata uhaki au ndio walikuwa wameficha nini file.
A few months later, the culprit was sentenced to life imprisonment, a reprieve for the family and the young victim.
Uamuzi ya koti vile ilitoa wakasema huyo mtu afunge maisha, asikae hata na binadamu karibu, na nimeshukuru sana KTN kama haikuchipin file ilikuwa imefichwa hatungeweza.
People in Busia County now trust the church more than they trust the law.
Anajua kule nje hakuna mahali amesaidika, huenda amejaribu hajasaidika. Sasa tumaini lake na kila kitu ni kwa kanisa, najua hapa nitasaidika. So anapokuja, mimi kama mchungaji namweka mbele za Mungu, najitolea na kumwambia Mungu mambo haya ingilia kati.
Miriam is another victim of justice denied. Her daughter was only 3 years old when she was defiled by a well-known neighbor. Even after the suspect was arrested and taken to Bumala police station, police allegedly embarked on a mission to conceal the evidence after the suspect had been released on bond. Police purported that the suspect had some mental illness. A well-known man with a sober mind was now alleged to be mad.
Prosecutor akamuuliza alianza kuwa lini na hiyo shida ya mental.
In June 2019, the Busia court demanded a mental check report from either Kakamega Referral Hospital or Mathare Hospital in Nairobi. It's now 1 year and a half. The report is yet to be filed. The police seem to be playing hide and seek.
Huyo askari Bumala mwenye amesimamia hiyo mambo ya faili yake, nikimpigia simu saa zingine na receive.
The alleged madman was set free and is now nowhere to be seen.
Kesi imesimama, yeye alitolewa, sijui penye yako.
As it all appears to be a game of money, one will wonder how much it takes to make a defilement case disappear in Busia County. She had found a suspect red-handed defiling her own daughter. She reported at Bumala police station and the victim put behind bars.
Nilimpata tu juu ya mtoto wangu akiwa uchi. Hata alikuwa anapigwa akipelekwa police station akiwa uchi. Alipimwa akatoka positive. Mtoto wangu alipewa hizo madawa za ARV, ndio nashukuru Mungu alitoka negative.
During court proceedings at Busia Law Courts, her file got lost.
Alinileta shilingi 370. 370,000. Cash money weka tu hivi kwa meza mpaka hata kama wazazi kila mtu alikuwa wakiniambia ati chukua hii pesa withdraw hiyo case. Na ukikataa hii pesa nitapeleka huko mbele, nikishapeleka huko mbele hakuna mahali utaenda na hii case. Files zilikuwa zinapotea, mara file inapatikana kwa prison, mtu ameshafungwa na baada hajafungwa.
But when the pressure by an governmental organization on the judiciary was too much, the police alleged that they had found the file in Korinda prison in Busia.
The file was traced to Korinda prison. So the file had been taken like with the files of people who have been convicted.
October 16, the suspect was found guilty and jailed only for 6 years.
Miaka 6 ni hizi miaka zenye siku hizi zinaenda haraka, si atarudi. Tena akipata mwingine hata akipata tu the same huyu mtoto wangu. Sisi hata atamua.
From being defiled by their most trusted ones, often their caregivers and fathers, to being infected with HIV, impregnated, and painful slap of no justice served, the tales of the daughters of Busia County, robbed of the joys of the childhood. Who will wipe the painful tears of the girl defiled twice by predators and injustice?
I had a time where somebody who had a case in court of defilement, the family paid my house girl 50,000 to poison me. Another challenge is that you don't get a lot of political goodwill. And when you ask, many people will tell you, I have spoiled the name of this county because of revealing some of these things.
Willie Lusigi, KTN News, Praying Fathers of Busia.
Away from that fire incident at Gikomba, we shift our gears to a 24-year-old black man who has been paralyzed after being tussled by police in London last month. Has told the BBC he believes he was targeted because of his color. Jordan Walker Brown fell off a wall as the police chased him, damaging his spinal cord. A Metropolitan Police officer is under criminal investigation. The case underlines growing concern about the disproportionate use of tasers on black men. Home Office figures for England and Wales shows that tasers were used around 22,000 times in the year up to March 2019 last year. Almost 20% of the incidents involved a black person. But black people represents less than 4% of the population in England. BBC with the report.
7 weeks ago, Jordan Walker Brown was a fit young man of 24. Today, he's in a wheelchair, paralysed from the chest down. Doctors have told him he'll never walk again. Police had been following him and he was then chased by 2 officers along this street in Haringey in North London. He says he had a small amount of cannabis. Jordan Walker Brown has a criminal record and had been arrested the day before for cannabis possession. He climbed onto a wall. 1 officer fired a taser and Jordan Walker Brown fell onto the concrete of the canal towpath. A drop of nearly 2 metres. His sister Sian, who doesn't want her face shown, takes up her brother's story.
As he describes it, knees in the back, twisting his arms around, put him in handcuffs. He's telling them that he can't feel his legs, he can't feel his body. They've tried to drag him to stand him up. And obviously he can't stand up because he can't feel anything.
A Metropolitan Police officer is now under a criminal investigation by the police watchdog.
Enough is enough!
One of the issues for the Black Lives Matter movement is the way black men are treated by the police, and that includes the use of tasers. Bishop Desmond Jadu is a community activist in Birmingham.
Police using us as target practice for taser, for their batons.
He is currently helping Travail Wise, who was tasered 4 months ago and is still suffering the after effects.
Are they going to tase him? They're going to tase him.
Police were at a car crash near his house. He went out to investigate, and one officer began focusing on him.
The officer turns around, taser already drawn, and then he runs back up towards me, telling me to get down on the ground. Rips my t-shirt off, trying to get me down on the ground. When he fired the taser, the barbs of the taser, they're like fish hooks. 2 barbs come out, one upper, one lower. So the upper barb hit me in my throat, and the lower barb hit me in my chest. I thought I'd die. I thought, I'm gonna die, yeah.
A West Midlands police officer is now subject to a criminal investigation by the police watchdog.
I would not have been tasered if I was white. That's a straight fact.
Like Travail Wise, Jordan Walker-Brown has told the BBC he believes he was targeted because of his colour. In a written statement from his hospital ward questioning why a taser was fired at him, he says, "I'm determined to prove that the police are not above the law." June Kelly, BBC News.
We shift our gears to Russia. Russia is now celebrating its biggest public holiday, Victory Day, with a military parade in Moscow that was meant to be held on 9th May. It is 75 years since then the USSR defeated Nazi Germany. World War II cost more than 20 million Soviet lives. President Vladimir Putin reluctantly postponed the big annual celebrations because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but it was rescheduled ahead of a key constitutional vote which could allow him a further 2 terms in power.
Hurrah!
It was the parade the Kremlin had been determined to stage. On Red Square, Russian military might marking 75 years since the defeat of Nazi Germany. It had been postponed once due to the pandemic, but the president had pledged the parade would go ahead when possible to honour Russia's contribution in World War II.
We will always remember that Nazism was crushed by the Soviet people, by millions of people of different ethnicities from all republics of the Soviet Union.
No masks for the military and no social distancing, but the Kremlin insists this was safe.
Vladimir Putin's decision to push ahead with this parade now is a controversial one. The Kremlin leader claims that the coronavirus is in retreat, but it's not beaten. The city of Moscow alone is registering around 1,000 new COVID cases every day.
So why did Vladimir Putin decide the military show must go on? Partly because Russia's victory in World War II has become a cornerstone of the country's national idea. But more crucially, the president is hoping the parade boosts his popularity ahead of a referendum on extending his rule. Voting starts tomorrow. War veteran Nikolai Yarko wasn't worried. We'll beat the virus, he says, just like we defeated the Nazis. It's fighting talk like that the Kremlin is keen to encourage. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.
Well, earlier I spoke to our Moscow correspondent Sarah Rainsford, who explained what the public reaction has been to the parade going ahead.
This was a parade that was staged in cities right across the country, fewer than it would normally be in a non-coronavirus year. Some places decided it wasn't safe to go ahead, but a couple of dozen cities that did stage this parade. And interestingly, here in Moscow, as in those cities, mass gatherings, public gatherings are still banned because of the risk of coronavirus. But in fact, here in Moscow, plenty of people did come out on the streets to watch the tanks roll by. They roll down the main street here in Moscow before they head to Red Square, and they came out to see the flyby of some 75 planes and helicopters, again marking 75 years. this is a big national holiday in Russia. It is a major day on the calendar, so people did want to mark it. But of course, there is still that very real risk of the coronavirus. And even though many of the restrictions have been relaxed in recent days here in Moscow, the risk is still present, of course.
And of course, that vote is going to take place next week. What's his popularity like at the moment?
Well, I think that's key to the timing of this vote, because you might argue that there's no need for a vote on constitutional reforms right now, no urgent, desperate political need for that, apart from one thing. President Putin desperately wants, it seems, to have a vote which will allow him, when the constitution is changed, if that's voted for, to stand for president 2 more times. He could be president here in Russia, if he chooses, until 2036. Now, the reason for the haste, well, possibly it is because his rating has been falling recently, and I think he knows that things aren't going to get any better. The coronavirus, of course, has hit the economy here in Russia, as it has affected countries right around the world, and things weren't great before the pandemic, and I think the worry is that coming out of the pandemic, things could be more difficult. So better to get that vote done now than wait too long.
Still in Russia is that Russians go to the polls on Thursday to cast early votes in a national-wide ballot on constitutional reforms that could see President Vladimir Putin remain in power until 2036. France News with the reports.
Голосуй за свое будущее. Вот да, вот, пожалуйста. Вот оно, да, за выделенное.
Yulia Galyamina is an opposition councillor in Moscow. She's battling to get an alternative voice heard amid an official campaign which she says is implicitly encouraging Russians to vote yes to Vladimir Putin's constitutional reform.
Но они будут утверждать, что это типа голосовать за будущее можно, проголосовав нет, но сама форма, то, с какими словами это все передается, это, конечно, манипулятивные методы.
On notice boards, in letterboxes and on posters around town, the official campaign plays on patriotism and national pride. But the mood here is of resignation.
Ну, все перетусовывается. То есть настолько народ уже разочаровался в этом. Знаете, нас убедили в этом, что мы не решаем ничего.
Я как бы против, но, скорее всего, понимаю, что все равно их уже там примут, и, скорее всего, люди там проголосуют. Если не проголосуют, то там добавят.
To encourage people to vote, there's also a chance to win gift vouchers for big brand stores around the capital. The Moscow Chamber of Commerce linked up with City Hall to organise the lottery, which it says is perfectly innocent.
Выносится на голосование по одобрению, но вы можете не одобрить. Все, кто придут, как бы они ни проголосовали, они будут участвовать в возможности получить эти купоны.
According to the Levada Center, an independent polling institute, in May 44% of Russians supported the reform, 32% were against, and 24% were undecided.
From that story from Western region, where small girls have been defiled by their fathers and uncles, I'm now joined by our own news anchor, that is Esther Kimani, to discuss matters concerning the same defilement taking place in Busia County. How are you, and good evening?
I'm alarmed by these numbers.
Right.
Yeah. Every day there's a story about sexual abuse. Yesterday there was a story about teenage pregnancies, which is very, very alarming. Number one, what hits my mind is number one, sex education. Who's educating our children about sex? That they should know that if a person touches me in a particular way, or if a person tries to insinuate something sexual, it is wrong. Many don't know that it's wrong. I live in the ghetto, and many of them think it's normal to have a boyfriend and a girlfriend, even in their young ages. That is very, very alarming. Again, your own father defiling you also raises mental awareness questions. Yeah. Because these people are going to be traumatized throughout their lives. Who's going to cater for their mental needs?
Yeah? Do you think that the parents are failing on their side?
Yeah. I think some of the parents are failing. Yeah.
As a girl child, or rather as a lady, what do you think that the government should do to ensure that we protect our small growing children, especially girls, to ensure that they are not engaged in such sexual immoralities in our society?
As I stated earlier, sex education in schools. Yeah, there could also be campaigns around the areas, like now there's corona, people are not in schools. There could be campaigns educating about sex. There are very many platforms on people or organizations that have been abused, but so many people don't know these organizations. People don't have these hotlines. The 116 Children Health Hotline.
Yes.
Yeah, so campaigns, sex education, and the judiciary should take its mandate, because out of the 4,000 pregnancies, how many teenagers have been abused and how many abusers have been arrested? Yeah. Also, we are advocating so much about the girl child, in terms of education also, because another question that would be raised would be, how many of the dropouts after giving birth will be able to go back to school? Yeah. And we should also advocate for the boy child, because pregnancies don't just happen. It's an activity between the girl and the boy. So who is also educating the boy child about sex education? Yeah.
What would you like to tell our parents back at home, especially anybody who is watching you right now?
It starts with all of us. That's what I would say. Yeah. You being open enough with your child to know what's going on in their lives, not taking things lightly, because so many sex abuse victims don't speak out because they won't be believed. Yeah, so listen, watch, observe very closely on the behaviors of your child, on who you're leaving your child with, or who your child is associating with. Yeah, and educate.
Right, thank you so much. That has been our own news anchor, Esther Kemani, and a pleasure to have you. Thank you for watching. I've been your host, Nelson Mushoki. Have a good evening. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Always keep in mind that success is gotten, not granted.